Holy cow. I was just I was just talking like it was working. How ridiculous is that? Okay, so here we are. Anyway, we just finished the premiere of episode 294. And golly, that's a lot. And so I think it's I feel like all the stories are powerful stories. There you go. AKA Mamaka wife. Wow. Is that, is that I don't know how to interpret that uh screen name. Hello, Cindy. Cindy, you asked if Kimberly is a storyteller. No, Kimberly is not a storyteller yet, but she will be once we make it to Memphis. And that is our plan. Unless she can make it down to Ridgeland, Mississippi, Jackson area, and we will be there. We'll be there for a couple of days around November 21st. They'll be also known as a wife and a mom. Okay, I understand. It makes sense now. So, are you new here? Is this? Uh, I don't remember seeing your name before. Doesn't doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I miss stuff. I'm sure Kimberly will be a storyteller, if she wants to. Key thing about our storytellers is they're not recruited. They want to be a part of it. We don't we don't persuade people to be a part of it. We don't go out and find anybody. They come to us or one person in some part of the country in Virginia or North Carolina or Colorado or Arizona or wherever will come to us wanting to share a story, and we'll explain to them about how our storytelling summits work and how at these summits we record interviews with 6 to 8 people a day for a couple of days, and they work with us to make a summit happen in their area, and they become one of the storytellers. So, AKA mom, AKA wife. Yeah. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Very cool that you're with us here tonight for this live event. They're always very cool. I'm sure some others will be joining us soon. We ought to be seeing Brenda Miller anytime now. She's not already here. Brenda is supposed to have a report for us. AKA, that's as far as I'm going to go with that. AKA says there's so much person can learn from these stories how to get through the bad, hard times. Thank you. Well, thank you. I feel incredibly blessed to get to do these stories, to be in this spot that we very much we just kind of we stumbled into it. We recorded some stories for the DEA here in Houston, and when we put them on our YouTube channel, they took off. So we kept doing it, and I suppose it's grown into kind of a big deal. Kimberly says last time I flew, I told Stewart we only take off. I get stiff drink. We only take off when I get a stiff drink. Yeah, only way to fly, right? So yeah, so we really stumbled into making these stories, and over the last couple of years, we've expanded to include other topics, other types of stories that matter. So we have a series on human trafficking, and we have a series on addiction recovery, and on domestic violence, and on cannabis induced psychosis, and on impaired driving. And we're about to start a series about cannabis as a treatment for brain cancer in children. That's going to be it's another really important one. Tristan, Lisa says, I'll buy you a drink even though I don't drink. I'll go with you. They have a hotel set up with discounted rates and everything. Yeah, we're all fixed up. Not I didn't I wasn't aware of that, but that's awesome. So, AKA says, yes, I think a lot of people are blind to drugs. They don't know drugs does not discriminate. They don't care who you are. A lot of people do not realize that these days and times. Lisa says Parker's Law has helped countless fentanyl victims and their survivors get justice. Justice is such an elusive thing. There's not, justice is weird. Families should have justice. But there's really little consolation in it other than justice screams to everyone that this is not okay. Dawn Brooks, Cordy. Cordy did an amazing job. I was blessed to meet her there. And I know Parker is so proud of her and getting his law passed. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds on target. That is the yeah, that's the thing. Lisa says I think it's going to be another great Mississippi event like the Wiggins event. Well, that's awesome. The Wiggins event is a pretty high bar. And I will be grateful to be there regardless. Dawn, she really did amazing. Yeah, I think so too. I was hoping to be able to share with you folks a little bit of like a sneak peek at a little bit of this project that we're working on about cannabis, but it wasn't ready in time. So maybe next time. About a month ago, Tristan Lisa says, about a month ago, we had 6 people arrested in fentanyl related deaths from Parker's Law. Well, that's awesome. And Dawn says, that's what our babies want. They want us to save others even though they weren't able to. We have to keep pressing on. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It is sort of I don't know if paying it forward is the right term, but it is finding a way to pull just a little bit of value out of your terrible loss. That's how it seems to me. Yes, Kimberly, you are definitely fighting hard. You have a lot going on in relation to fentanyl and in homeless communities. You're doing wonderful stuff. Really doing wonderful stuff. So, do we have? Is the storyteller with us? Is the storyteller in the room with us? We have a smaller crowd, and the reason we have a smaller crowd, I believe, is because I neglected to program the redirect at the end of the premiere to come here. You've been talking about you guys. Who's you guys? Is that the crowd in here in the chat? Is that Texas Pictures? Who's you guys? All right. I feel like so. Here's an interesting thing. I believe that there is 8 or 9 seconds of delay between when I see a message and when I respond to it, and then another 8 or 9 seconds before I get an answer. Let them know they are not just hurting themselves, they hurt the whole family. That is something that is a glaring truth that I feel like kind of comes through in a bright and shining way in most of our stories. That the risks, the impact that dealing with addiction can have, and the loss. It reaches so much farther than just the user. It reaches so much farther than just the victim. And clearly, the victim, in the vast majority of our stories, the victim pays the ultimate price. But the impact is far beyond just the victim. It is the whole family, everyone close to the victim. It is so profoundly tragic. Well, I hope she's here. I didn't. I didn't. I don't remember seeing her in the chat during the live event. I mean, during the premiere. But of course, could have been. So, AKA says, my life has been through this evil more than I want it. Yes, it hurts so bad. And Sarah, are you new? Are you new here, Sarah? Sarah says, love your message. I'm sober 5 years from IV heroin and fentanyl. So at some point, you moved from heroin to fentanyl. Is that accurate, Sarah? I appreciate you being here very, very much. So that move, making that move was, I imagine, would have been a kind of involuntary thing that from what I've been told from people on the streets and from law enforcement is that there is no avoiding fentanyl anymore, especially if you're using heroin. I have checked about Nux, Brad. I have. And I don't have an answer. However, Brenda says she has an answer. And that to remind her to give us an update on Nux when she joins the group. And so I'm hoping she'll be along soon. Sarah, yes, moved from pills to heroin to fentanyl. There's kind of a no choice thing, I think, to moving from heroin to fentanyl because it's kind of all there is. There is no dependable heroin anymore. That it is laced with fentanyl or it is fentanyl. So 5 years, Sarah, that's a long time. How you doing? That's that Sarah, you know we have a series of addiction recovery stories on our channel. If you go to the playlists, it's easy to find and there is about 50 or maybe 51 stories of recovery. They're stories of victory. And as far as I know, all of the stories except one are still doing good. There is one that I know of that has relapsed and is currently incarcerated. So let's see where Brad's at. Brad deleted a message. There's probably some sort of old guy mistake, I'm sure. Sarah says, I've watched your videos for a long time and it reminds me where I could be if not for a total mind change. God and my sober friend saved me. Awesome. If you haven't seen the recovery stories, you should explore them. I think that it sounds like you're in an awesome place, and I think that I think you just might feel a connection with some of the storytellers in the recovery series. Brenda is here. Everyone and Brad. Everyone and Brad. I like, Brenda, I like how that says Brad has special needs. I spoke with Nux last night and she promises to drop in soon. She has been extra busy with 6 grandbabies now in her custody, and she still has 3 of her own at home. Now help me remember where Nux is. Is she, I have in my head, she's like Alabama or Mississippi. Is that right? Sarah says I'll definitely check out the recovery stories. I have seen a few. There's some really cool ones. There's a few that really stand out to me. There's some some of the recovery stories the storytellers have. How would you put it? Maybe they have entertaining personalities. Maybe we'll put it like that. Some of them have quite the sense of humor too. Brad asks about about Nux, but she is well. And that's the message I get from Brenda Brad. Yes, she is well. Just really has her hands full with the babies. And of course, her extended family is all in active addiction. So she has very little outside help. And Kimberly's asking, where's Carla at? I swear to you, I have a similar resemblance to Frank Sinatra. Gosh, Brad, are you saying that you look like Frank Sinatra the way he looks now? Brianna, I have been missing many premieres. Well, yeah, Brianna, it looks like you have. But you're here today. I don't know if you caught the premiere or not, but you're here for this. And you can go back and catch the premiere later on. So there's that. Brenda says, Sarah, welcome. Great to have another person here saved from fentanyl. Glenn and this group have helped save me from active fentanyl addiction 413 days ago. I owe them my life. Forever grateful. Uh, Gosh, Brenda, you're doing it again. You're choking me up, and well, thank you. Uh, um, I don't know. I don't know how to say that I'm grateful for hearing that without sounding like I don't know, like I'm special, and I'm not special. I'm very fortunate to be in this spot where I can do this kind of work and do what I can to help others. Very grateful. Alabama, that's right. So I wonder how far that is from Jackson, Mississippi. Because that's where we'll be next month. Let's see. AKA says, do you have Suboxone treatment programs in your part of town? Does anyone except a lot of people I know? Does it help anyone except a lot of people I know? AKA, I can tell you that I hear a lot of good things about Suboxone. And I also hear a lot of good things about methadone. We spent a couple of days interviewing a former White House drug czar who really praises options like methadone, Suboxone. Tara, I saw the one recently with the mom and lost two sons and a brother. So heartbreaking for her. Yeah, that was a story from Florida, I believe. We had a mom. We had a storyteller who lost three, and a storyteller who lost five. Both were in Palm Bay, Florida. Brad says I don't think he has one. Uh, Rain's mama, Rain, Carla changed her name. You're screwing me up. You're talking about the coffee mugs. The coffee mugs are available on our merchandise store, and there's a link to our merchandise store on our website. We had one on our YouTube channel, and for some reason it just went away, and I haven't really gotten a straight answer as to why. So, yeah. And it was YouTube who said we needed a store. Brianna says Suboxone receives mixed reviews. My friend had trouble filling a script for it. Yeah, it is a substance that is tightly controlled, I believe. Dawn says, Brenda, that's right. Roll Tide. I'm in Alabama too. Could she use help? Not sure where in Alabama. Brad says, does it get hot in Houston? No. The climate here is just like in Maui. You just come on down, Brad. You'll like it. You'll like it. You'll have a good time. No, Brad, there is no news on the hoodies with the zippers. That is the only way to fly as far as I go, though. Cindy says, what are the rules for that, Miss Brenda? I don't know. Brenda says, AKA Mom, every person I've known on medically assisted treatment is relapsed because the rules are impossible to keep up with. But I am sure it helps some. Those rules. Brenda says, Cindy, in the beginning, you have to show up each morning to get your dose, see a doctor, counselor, and go to group meeting. This is hard for people who don't have a driver's license or a car. Well, that makes sense. It would be difficult without transportation to get to events like that are required, that are mandatory. AKA says, one that broke my heart was a child that was with the babysitter and died from getting into fentanyl. Yeah, I think that is baby cash that you're referring to. I'm awake. Cassius Ballinger, I believe, is his proper name, but he's referred to oftentimes as Baby Cash. His mother is Ashley Green, and she is a very, very active, outspoken champion for fentanyl awareness. Carla says, not really risk. I'm afraid that's my life forever on this earth. How have you been? Oh, Carla. You know, we've hung out together a few times, and I can tell you once in a while there's a fleeting, wonderful glimpse of that part of you that is cloaked behind the pain, and it's wonderful to see. I can imagine how Brad must miss that. Brenda says, Cindy, in the beginning, you have to. Oh, I read that already. Risk is with us again. Thank you for joining us, Risk. You go do a treatment series. Too much overdose videos. A treatment series. It's kind of like a recovery series, I suppose. I'd be totally game for that. I've thought about the idea of spending 24 hours at a rehab facility, a halfway house, detox facility, whatever. There's a lot of challenges with that, particularly regarding HIPAA laws when it comes to rehab centers and detox places. I'd be open to it. I think there's good stories. Sorry, been a long day. I think there's good stories in there. What people are going through at the moment and what people went through that landed them there. Sarah says in my state, Indiana, it's pretty easy to get Suboxone. There should be rules with any medications. I think addicts should have to take drug tests. You can't get a script with methadone. Okay? Brenda says, Dawn, I do not if she needs help. I'll ask next time we talk. Since I'm in Oklahoma, all I can do is offer moral support. I emailed Nux and haven't heard back from her yet, but I maintain high hopes that I will. And it would be great if she could make it to Mississippi when we're having our summit in Ridgeland or Jackson, wherever it is. Risk says you got to do a successful treatment video. There's too much overdoses. Well, isn't I'm not trying to argue. I agree. I would love to have treatment videos out there that were reaching people the way the fentanyl stories do. Is there I get so many mixed I get so many mixed signals from people regarding all of the treatment options. For any treatment option that's out there and relatively credible, I've heard from many people, like with AA, I've heard from many people who have said AA is awesome. And I've heard from many people who say AA is awful. There's an extra level of challenge to addressing treatment centers. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that's a thing. That is a thing that we hear a whole bunch. Let me see if I can get caught up here. Let's see. AKA says, "Ooh, that hurt. What happened?" Is there something I said? AKA says that is a story that's very powerful. Rain says Greg called you yesterday. Wow, I bet that was an experience. Talking to Greg on the phone is always an experience. It tends to kind of be, all right, gotta go. Something like that. It's cool that Greg gave you a call. Dawn says, let me know if she does and what city she lives in. Maybe I can, maybe on my way to Mississippi, I could stop by. I could do that. For Nux, I could do that. Carla, have you got the outline for Rain's book finished yet? I mean, you've had 2 full days. Good one, Brenda. Rain, you should do the book, Carla. You should. Rain would love that. When my grandmother died, she was the last one in the household, and in the course of cleaning out the house, I found a history my grandfather had written about his father. My grandfather had passed 10 years before, but here's this document that he wrote. When he died, I was 21 years old. I was in college. Here we are 10 years later, and I'm managing a video department in an oil company, and I have all these resources available to me. And here's this document that my grandfather wrote. And so I used that document to develop a script and make a documentary about his father's life and the experience. In the course of putting the script together, I would argue with my grandfather and talk to him, ask him, well, what does this mean, Papa? And in the course of doing all that, I sort of got to experience an adult relationship with my grandfather that I missed. So for me, there was something definitely significant to that experience of developing that script and that documentary, which is on our channel, with my grandfather. So let's see where we're at. Kimberly is asking, why did Greg call you? A recovery series. We have a recovery series. We do. The recovery series has over 50 episodes, I believe. 50 or 51. AKA says Suboxone treatment is one time a week. If you pass your drug test, then you can go to every 2 weeks and then have a CCA bus that will pick you up. I don't know what they charge for gas. Yes, Cindy, we do have a recovery series. Kimberly says, I enjoy the recovery series. I'm working on it, Rain's mama says. I'm working on it. I'll let you guys know when I start making progress. You all will be the first to know. Here's the thing, Carla. I think you're already making progress. If you're working on it, or if you're thinking about it, you're kind of sort of working on it. That when you have a story in your head, you sort of shape it and develop it just as you go through the course of your day. It jumps in and out of your brain, and you come up with ideas or rule things out or remember new things to include or whatever. So it sounds like you're working on it, right? Yes, a recovery series, the constant overdoses is getting too much. Okay, so there is a recovery series, there is a human trafficking series, a domestic violence series. Now, the human trafficking series and the domestic violence series, there's a lot of overlap between those and stories about addiction and recovery. Human trafficking stories on our channel and the domestic violence stories on our channel are also stories of victory. The storytellers are past that part of their life. Brianna says overdose gets the most engagement. Okay, yeah, it does. And the more than any of the other stories on our channel, the fentanyl stories is what draws the audience. And by drawing the audience, we can share with the audience other stories. So there's a real benefit to drawing the audience. And once we draw the audience, we can share with them a story about addiction recovery or a story about human trafficking or about cannabis induced psychosis or whatever. What we are finding also is that cannabis induced psychosis stories draw a large audience too. And the best thing about the big audience, aside from whatever message is in the story that draws the audience, aside from that reaching a lot of people, is that it brings people other stories. It puts other stories in front of people. Risk says, true enough, but people need to see hope. Absolutely. Here's the beauty of the recovery series. We get a lot of comments on the fentanyl stories about uh, from people who are in recovery, and we get comments from people who just want to be in recovery. And to be able to tell those people that we have a series of recovery stories and to give them a link and suggest that they go over there and watch some of those stories, that really means a lot to me. To be able to give them that window into some hope, to give them those examples of victories, that's a big deal. And Carla asks if Brad and Brenda are still on the 5-year plan. I'm sure they are. It seems like the 5-year plan is pretty perpetual. Brad's asking if I have any inside information on how long the government is going to be shut down. Well, I have a prediction that it'll be less than a week. Less within the next week, the government will have sorted it out. And that prediction is based on absolutely nothing factual. I literally just made it up. So that puts us right up there with CNN, doesn't it? Right? Carla says, Brad, are you in? Yeah. Brad says, how long? Okay. Yeah. Sarah, this is my issue with methadone, Brenda. They not only make you go to a clinic and stand in a line to make you look like a drug fiend, unless you have been in it for over a year, they make you do daily doses. AKA says, and in Suboxone treatment, they don't give you anything like that. They call you pharmacy and then you pick it up. That way you do it. That's the way they do it in my state. So, Kimmy, are you here? Kimmy? Sorry, I'm talking to a storyteller here. Just give me a second. I gotta do this. Nickel and diamond pictures at me here. We can't have that. Brenda says, Carla, I think the book can give you a place to focus your energy and will be a marvelous legacy for our girl Rain. That Brenda's right, Carla. Brenda's right. The book will be a substantial amount of work, but once you really get immersed into it, I think you'll love it. I really think you'll love it. It could be something that you never really finish, but you'll love it. Hey, Rick says no two AA groups are the same. Bingo. That's a thing. That is absolutely a thing. I have heard that many, many times. And that's part of the value of the AA groups. You keep hopping from meeting to meeting until you find the group that suits you. That's a good thing. Carla says, Kimberly, you should get in touch with me. Sarah says, which which set you up for failure? Methadone doesn't stop you from getting high. Suboxone does. So it's really a better program. Who is this Greg? Greg. That would be Greg Swan. Greg Swan is a co-founder of Fentanyl Fathers. And he is extremely active in fentanyl awareness through his organization. And Fentanyl Fathers has a mission of bringing fentanyl awareness presentations into every high school and every middle school in the United States. And they're well on their way to accomplishing that, getting into more and more states all the time. I don't know how many states we are at now. I'm on the board of Fentanyl Fathers. I'm glad to do what I can. And 16, 17, 18 states, maybe more now. Who's this Greg? So Greg is also one of our storytellers. If you find Drew Swan's story on our channel, I don't know what episode it is, but his name is Drew Swan. That's his son's name. And Greg is the storyteller in that. There's also a story in our playlist. We have a playlist that's about fentanyl awareness organizations. And there's a story in there about Fentanyl Fathers. Greg is the storyteller in that as well. So AA has worked for a lot of people. AA has worked for a lot of people. You got to go through the steps I was talking about. The child store. No, you did say anything. AKA, I'm sure I'm not reading that right. Brad says I belong to AAA, but it was too expensive. Well, actually, AAA is one of our clients. We have made we made a documentary for AAA about distracted driving. 6 or 7 years ago, The documentary was finished about the time COVID came along. So that was kind of screwed up. Brenda says, risk, I would venture to say no two AA meetings are alike, which is why it is so important for people to keep looking and take what you like and leave the rest. Brenda's right. Kimberly says, my treatment is God. That's a good one. AKA says, I was talking about the story. It had me in tears. Yes, it was a powerful story for sure. Wonderful, wonderful storyteller, a wonderful mom, and still very much at it, very active. Trying to bring awareness. Wonderful. AKA says, all of them put me in tears. Yeah, me too. Here's the thing for me, when we're recording these interviews, rarely do I ever get choked up or cry because I have distractions. I'm I'm thinking about the next question to ask. I'm thinking about how the story is going to edit together. I'm looking at technical stuff about the camera and how audio levels are going and if the exposure's looking right and things like that. So I have this wonderful level of distraction that I have to stay attentive to. But when it comes to doing the editing, then it gets a little different because it's just me right here, hearing that story again and again and again. So this is where I'm more likely to cry. Cindy says that Brad always lightens the mood at times. Yeah, he's good like that. It's a skill set. It's a good skill set for an old guy to have. That's what I think. Carla says Brad tries to heal broken hearts by telling jokes and giving gifts. His heart is in the right place. Clearly, clearly, his heart is in the right place. Gave us a gift, and he's. Brad says, Brianna, I'm not sure of the difference between AA and AAA. Sorry. Yeah, Brad. Yeah, you're really queuing one up there for sure. Brenda says Cindy without insurance methadone is over $1,000 a month. Price varies on insurance. Medicare wants to stop covering it. I don't know why. I would imagine the reason why is money. AKA says, congratulations on doing the stories. Your work on really get powerful stories and stories. I think it's safe to say your family is proud of you. Thanks again. Well, thank you. Risk says Glenn start a publishing company and you can do Carla's book. Risk? No. Starting a publishing company sounds frightening to me. A publishing company. I'd have to deal with people like grammar police and ah and hardware. Wow. Sarah is leaving. She says, good night. God bless. Good night, Sarah. Thank you for joining us. Riss says, Texas Pictures Publishing. Wow. No. That's, I feel that feels out of my scope. It's out of the company scope, I feel. Hmm. Brenda says, Sarah, we freely forgive typos because we all make them from time to time. So you just type and we'll figure it out. For sure. We do. However, I have a story about typos. Some of you have already heard it. I don't care. Glenn, do you remember I told you about writing a book with Rain when you did Rain's fentanyl documentary with me? I don't. Gosh, Carla, I don't. I want to say I remember that, and I can picture it when we're sitting in that church sanctuary and doing your interview. I was really moved by your whole family. They had a big impact on me. But I certainly I don't remember any details about the talk of a book. But it sounds familiar. And it's definitely something you should do. We can help you. I'll help you. Brad will probably help you too. Because he's got that kind of time. Because he's like retired and gets a lot of naps and stuff. Brenda says, Sarah, please join us again. Good night and God bless. Cordy, Glenn, I thought I was on live to comment. I did comment to a couple of people, but obviously. So I'm hearing from Cordy right now. Cordy's our storyteller for the premiere that just happened. What about Mothers Against Drunk Driving? They're one of our clients. MAD is one of our clients, Kimberly. We are working on a couple of projects with MAD right now. Let me see if I can figure out how to go about directing Cordy to be part of our live event. I don't quite know how to do that. I'm trying to figure it out, though. Not that channel. There we go. Okay. Here's the live event. All right. Share. Copy. Go over here. There we go. Maybe Cordy will join us now. Okay. Let me see where I'm at. Sarah, please join us again soon. I read that. Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Yeah, they are awesome people. We've done a lot of work with law enforcement through Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I have my own bulletproof vest. It's very cool. I put it on and I get taller. I hate government. They just cannot get it together. I hope they get over themselves. Rich says start a scholarship in Rain's name. That would be great. That would be that'd be a very cool thing. She really put a priority on awareness and education. It seems like from what from what I've learned about rain. And Brenda says we could start to fund it with a golf tournament. Well, there you go. That is certainly getting there. And there's Kimmy. Kimmy, are you here now? Are you in this event? Because I got your message right here. Okay, sorry. Brad, Virginia Slim, Light 120. What? I'm sorry. Let me see where we're at. Rain's Law is already written. We just have to get it passed. Brad asks, has anyone been through grief share? I don't know what that is. Does anybody know what that is? Virginia Slim. Wow. Okay. I'm just way behind here. Brenda says, Brad, what is grief share? I haven't heard of it. AKA says they need to get parents at the schools when they are talking about fentanyl. For sure. That's how Fentanyl Fathers works. They always have a bereaved parent in on the presentation, or virtually always. There's been some presentations I've done with Fentanyl Fathers. I am not a bereaved parent, but I have lots of friends who are. And so most of the time, the Fentanyl Fathers presentations are there's a bereaved parent involved. Look how far. Kimberly, then your mom has excellent taste because I don't know what I'm doing here. We'll see what happens there. Glenn, Glenn, you ever heard of the filmmaker David Hoffman? No, doesn't ring any bells, but that doesn't mean much of anything. I tend to have a pretty narrow focus on filmmaking that has to do with documentaries and journalism. Like I've heard of Ken Burns and I've heard of David Attenborough. You asked me what hurt. I was talking about the story still when I said, "Ooh, that hurt." Yeah, it's a painful, powerful story. Started dating in their teens. Brand, I would check into it. Larger churches here in town. My church. Let's see what else we got. Kimberly says, Glenn, I written my first book in 2018. Wow. Writing a book is a big deal. It's a big job. That's something to take a lot of pride in. Brenda wrote her first book in 1990, second in 2008, working on third one now. Good job. I feel like it's good. I feel like writing is good therapy, just like journaling. What about rounding up some of the storytellers on their healing journey? Yeah, we have talked about doing some sort of follow up thing, but also like a storyteller's reunion. The challenge is, of course, storytellers are scattered all across the country, and picking a place to go. Of course, Oklahoma, right, Brad? I know Oklahoma would be perfect. Uh, it's just about making it happen. I think that would be fantastic. AKA your grammar is awful. Yeah, that's okay because there's technology for that. It's fine. Kimberly, where, oh, I lost my place again. Kristen's going to write a book of poem and songs. You people are going, aren't you? It says our chat rate is 0. I don't know what that means, but surely we're doing better than that. Cannabis IP disorder, cannabis induced psychosis is what CIP means. Cordy is here. Look who's here. Thank you for joining us, Cordy. Cordy is our storyteller for our tonight's premiere. So glad you could be here. I'm a little behind with reading the messages and staying caught up. I'm trying. I'm just a little bit behind. So, Brad, I didn't know you were a Rush fan. I don't know. Kimberly says, Cordy, you are a special person to me. Kristen says the problem with mad and sad is that they have no solutions. They drink alcohol all week and weekend, then go to meetings. They have no abstinence nor 12-step program. I used to be in sad. Here's the thing about mad. Mad isn't really about substance abuse at all. Mad is about that decision to drive when you're impaired. Mad is about making that decision to put your life and other people's lives at risk by getting behind the wheel when you have no business being behind the wheel. MAD doesn't address substance abuse from a perspective of recovery or treatment or any of that. MAD's message is don't drink and drive. Don't drive impaired. So it's a little different. Brenda says, I would love to hear the recovery song. I have wrote more poetry since getting clean than in my entire past, which is funny because I really don't like poetry. Drugs really warped me. Brenda says, I thought it was an insurance company. Huh. When I was in SAD in high school, they didn't even know recovery existed. I find that believable for sure. What else is going on? Our storyteller is here. Does anybody have any questions for Cordy while we have her with us? And Kimmy, are you here? Where am I? Oh my gosh, look at all these messages. I want a special sticker, Brenda. I don't know what to make of that. And Brad, insurance company that will get you a tow truck. Oh, okay. We're getting that AAA thing. When I was in SAD in high school, they didn't know recovery. I can certainly believe that. It's not something that they would be particularly interested in addressing. You can go with Matt or SAD, but I say go with Brad in the 5-year plan. Oh, Brad, you're killing me. Brianna is asking if I made it to Memphis, and no, I have not made it to Memphis yet. Cordy says she's sending text messages, but they won't go. It'll be fine. So, Cindy says, "Oh my God, Miss Carla, you're such a beautiful person. I'm watching some of it now." I think Carla's still here. I hope she's still here. Brenda says, "Kristen, our transformation from using to clean is truly a beautiful thing to watch or experience. I just wish more of us could get it. I'm just starting, so I haven't seen much yet." Well, gosh, Cindy, you're going to meet Brad and Carla, and you'll learn a lot about rain. Brad, you should buy a Texas Pictures mug. Look, they're beautiful. Just like this. It's got the logo, it says Texas Pictures Documentaries, and on the back it says Stories That Matter. How cool is that, Brad? Imagine having a mug like this that you could drink coffee from when you're sitting under the shade tree out by the courthouse playing dominoes with the old guys. AKA says, "Good night, everyone, and God bless everyone. I didn't mean it in a bad way. I love to be smart enough to write a book. I am sorry." You are smart enough to write a book. Clearly. Clearly. It's about what's in your heart. And you got that. Brenda says, "Cindy, don't rush it. Lean into everything and it will all happen exactly when it's supposed to for your life." Kimmy is here. Hi, Kimmy. It has been a long, long day. So, Brenda, aka Mom, you can write a book and it will help. Good night and God bless. I'm watching Rain's story right here and on my phone. Rain is the most beautiful soul my heart has ever known, says Carla. And so, Kimmy is here. Kimmy's one of our storytellers. She's got a t-shirt and everything. Roll of Lifesavers. And her whole family has t-shirts. Cordy, look. Hi, Cordy. Cordy, that worked. That text thing worked. What did I miss? Did I miss something? You said you were texting, but it won't send. It's sending now. So evidently you did not break it. Cordy says, "Kimberly, I talk about the Good Samaritan law every time I speak to kids at schools. I tell them about all the kids that were there when Parker was in trouble." That's the thing. The Good Samaritan law is such a big deal. Most states have it now. One of the last to get a Good Samaritan law was Kansas. Some of the Good Samaritan laws have loopholes, however. Yes, Brad, it is self cleaning. This coffee mug right here is self cleaning. As long as you only drink black coffee, you never have to wash it. Hmm. What's that? I think it's moving. Anyway, the Good Samaritan law, if any of you aren't familiar, the Good Samaritan law means if you're in a circumstance that is a life or death kind of thing and someone needs an ambulance, if you call an ambulance, you're in that role of being the Good Samaritan. And as long as you are helpful, as long as you make an effort to do what you can until the ambulance arrives, you can't be charged for a crime associated with where you're at. Like if you're in possession, you can't be charged for a crime for that. Cordy, when I set up meeting with security guard about what is fentanyl, that's a good thing. Cordy, I am daily experiencing. I think I read that before. Try telling your alcoholic parents to not drink and drive. It got me kicked out of the house. No, be themselves while driving. Can't tell a U.S. Army captain to. Yeah, I can see that. So Cindy is working her way right through the project. Is that your younger daughter, Carla? Kimberly, thank you. I hope it makes a difference. I make sure your kids are. No, they won't be in trouble if they help save a life. Yeah, we have quite a few stories in our series where kids could have helped but didn't out of fear or ignorance. Cordy, I had never heard of fentanyl in 2010. Neither had I. Brad says, yes, that's jazz. Thing that struck me about jazz right away was the hair. Just, it was awesome. It looked great. I thought it looked great, but it was sure noticeable. It was insanely thick. Brenda says, Kristen, I think my dad drove me while I was drinking more than he did sober. Drove me while drinking more than he did sober. If you were underage, Brenda, when that happened, that's a felony. I didn't realize it was a bad thing until I was in middle school. Luckily, God was watching out for me. Kristen says 2% recovers. I'm I am optimistically skeptical about that number. I think it's higher. I think that there are people out there in recovery who just never get counted because they're not in the circle. Cindy, are you talking about Brad's hair? Kristen, it feels good to be one of those 2%, doesn't it? And Cindy says it's so nice to put faces to names. Rain's mom says, yes, it's Cindy. Her name is Jaslyn. Yes, it is, Cindy. Her name is Jaslyn. People sell everything online, Risk says. Yeah, there was a time when I was just looking for a graphic for Xanax, and in the course of looking online for a picture, I found a website in India where I could order a whole bunch of Xanax at once. Wasn't the dark web, it was just the web. And just like that, I found a source for Xanax that had to have been counterfeit. So, Kimmy, if you're still here, maybe you could share a little bit with us about your story. Kimmy is a story that we're working on right now that is about, I don't even know how to describe it. It's about cannabis as medicine. We're really struggling to come up with a good kind of title for this series, but it's really going to be an important, impactful kind of thing. Tonight's premiere was one of those events where I forgot to program the redirect at the end. And what happens with the redirect, I really don't know what the experience is like for the viewer when you're watching a premiere. When you get to the end of the premiere, there is supposed to be some kind of link or something that says go to the live here. And I neglected to do that for today's premiere because I forgot. It happens. Brenda says a girl's hair is her crown. Yeah. So right for you folks that have watched it, the hair, Jaslyn's hair, wow, it's impressive. Risk still uses a flip phone. All right, Risk. Good for you. Anyway, folks, so I feel like because of the way to go, Risk. Risk, my husband used a flip phone until our carrier quit supporting them. See, that's sort of being a rebel. All right. That's a whole bunch of hearts right at once, there, folks. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what they go with, but we're sorting it out. And I don't know why I have this on my desk. It's puzzling to me, but it is about time to wrap it up, don't you think? We have been here almost an hour and a half. I saw that Kimmy was here for a little while, and it's great that Cordy was able to join us, our storyteller. Our next story Rat on a Cheeto. Yeah. Rat on a Cheeto. Oprah on a baked ham. Biden on a flight of stairs. Not too soon, right? Uh, yeah, a rat on a Cheeto. Being on it like a rat on a Cheeto. Yeah, it's a terrible story. Yeah, I saw that, Brenda, and then you deleted it. Medicine or miracle? Both could be true. I feel like it's going to be a really impactful story, and hope to have it ready to bring to you folks very soon. We're getting close. I believe. We're getting close. Kimmy, cannabis medicine or miracle? Just a little idea for Kimmy. That's a good one. Another one, because the way we'll do it much like the Fentanyl series, where there is a main title and then a subtitle that's per episode. Main title is the same for all of them. So we have fentanyl poisoning, rain story, or we have fentanyl poisoning, it's in the weed, or whatever. And so we need something like that that we can use for Grayson's story, and then for the story after that, and the story after that. So it would be, can cannabis heal? Grayson's story, or something like that, maybe. Brenda says, oh, is she here? Lila, I like your title too. Thanks again for giving us Glenn. He's quite special in my book. I'm biased because he helped save my life. Well, thank you. Okay, I don't. Is there really? I don't see it. I'm looking and I don't. I just don't see it. So, but I'm not doubting Kristen Vienna. All right. So anyway, it is about time to wrap things up, folks. We have been here for almost 90 minutes. Well, wait. In 3 seconds, we will have been here 90 minutes. Bing. And there we go. 90 minutes. All right. Okay. So certainly that's long enough. So I want to thank you folks for joining us and remind Brenda to share her wonderful message about people taking things for granted. There we go, right there. And okay. So, and Cordy says, thank you for everything. Thank you, Cordy. I'm very grateful to have your story as a part of our series, and it's wonderful that your story is reaching people. Kristen says, I weaned off fentanyl in 2010, took me 9 months outside of a rehab and without methadone after 3 grueling years of the wrong medicine. And it is a victory now. It's a victory. And here's Brenda's wonderful message. Remember that what you take for granted, someone else is praying for. Good night. And thank you, Brenda, for sharing that. Dawn says, thanks, Glenn, for everything. Take care until next time, which ought to be in a couple of days. We have a couple of stories that are just that close to being finished. And then there's Grayson's story, which is a little bit not quite there, but working on it. So, anyway, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us. Are you letting your hair go? No, I'm not. I want to thank you all for joining us. Appreciate you being here. Remember, we're always here for you guys. You're welcome to reach out to us anytime. So you can reach out to us by email at info@texas-pictures.com. You can find us on Facebook under my name, Glenn Muse. You can also find us on our website, texas-pictures.com. And on our website, you'll find information about how to share your story, how to arrange a storytelling summit in your area. You'll find a link to our store with Texas Pictures merchandise, and you'll learn more information about us. You'll find a little bit about our history and other work that we've done. You'll find our mailing address, a phone number, all that good stuff. So thank you all for joining us, and we will talk to you again very soon. Until then, good night, folks.